Welcome.
Yeah,
And
thank
what
you.
was, I guess, a really good question to start is what was it like to go through to revisit your memoir in this new setting? And it's been a few years now since it's been out. What was it like, this experience of revisiting it through the book club?
It's kind of a difficult question for me to articulate the answer to, but it's every time I revisit the book, it's an odd, almost out of body experience, because it triggers my memory of things that had slipped away. It triggers my memory of some things I wish had slipped away. And it at the same time, it sometimes feels as though it happened to somebody else. It's an odd experience. It's now 18 years since I wrote the emails that are the body of the book, and it's 13 years since the book first came out. I hadn't revisited it in a while, but I guess 3 years or so ago, when I did the audio book, I had a chance to revisit it in depth, of course, and it's an odd experience. I wonder if people who have written sort of traditional autobiographies have the same experience if they go back and look at it a few years later, of kind of having written things down at the time and kind of let the book be the repository for those memories, and then go back after later years and discover that it's almost like hearing about them for the first time. It's a strange experience, but by the way, I'm presuming everybody here has read the book, or otherwise, what are you doing here? But I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the man who gave me the title for the book, my best friend for many, many years, Tom Allard, who has joined us here. If you can stand looking at his face, he's a wonderful, wonderful human being. So, yeah, I'm glad to see you here, Tommy boy.
Thank you. I think it's an important book.
I'm just glad you've read one.
Well, read.
Okay, well, anyway, I don't know if I answered that question, Jason, but
Oh, that's excellent. No, thank you. The other question was, you wrote about how Russell Friedman and the Grief Recovery Institute helped you during this tough time. And a few people did in the club voice that they were struggling with grief in their own lives. And I was just wondering what resources or thoughts you have for the people that are going through this now or more recently.
Well, my great personal resource, Russell Friedman, died a few years ago, and or I would send everyone to him, because I believe truly that he saved my life at a time when I was really uncertain of how or whether I wanted to go on. But the organization that he co-founded, the Grief Recovery Institute, still exists, still functions to both in person and online, to help people understand the importance of their grief and how their feelings about their experiences are genuine and authentic and are to be trusted. And I think if you go to the Grief Recovery Institute online, you'll get all the help you need. There's also the book that Russell Friedman and his partner John James wrote, which is a magnificent help for anyone struggling with loss, whether it be from death or divorce or losing one's home. They define grief as I'm paraphrasing, the painful feelings that accompany change. And the Grief Recovery Handbook is a great place to start, even though Russell Friedman was family. When I turned to him for help, he said, read the first X number of pages of the Grief Recovery Handbook and then call me. I don't want to sound like I'm selling something here, other than a way to cope with the uncopable. I got through the process that they shared with me and came out able to live happily, comfortably in the memories of my lost wife, my lost father, all of whom, it all happened around the same time. I can't recommend their program enough. There are a lot of people out there selling grief therapy, and I have strong reasons to believe that this is the best process one can find. So
that's great. It's really important to have those resources, and thank you for sharing them. Our members, myself included, were really touched by your stories of fatherhood in the memoir, and also just watching Maddie grow up. It's really wonderful to get to meet her. I really feel like I know these members of your family. Just wondering, how has your relationship evolved since you wrote your memoir, and maybe just a little update on Maddie?
Oh, we don't talk anymore. No. I suppose every parent would say this, but I don't recognize the young woman she's turned into, in the sense that she has outrun and diverged and surprised all of my expectations for her. She's way more eloquent and articulate and forceful about what she says and thinks than she was when I was writing this book. And she was a pretty articulate 3-year-old. So she's kind of a marvel to me. She's come a long way in terms of her recognition and understanding of her own situation. She's become a strong advocate for autism rights, and an articulate advocate. She has on her Facebook page right now, as of yesterday, there's a big discussion going that started with a post she made, and I read through it and I go, well, my kid knows more about this stuff than I do, and is smarter about it than I am. Raising Maddie was a process in which I discovered far too late that some of my ideas had been wrong, and she's helped me understand who she is and what the world of being a 20-year-old is, because I've long forgotten that, and what the world for an autistic person is. I think I'm very, very, very proud of her. she's living on her own in New York right now, and working and auditioning for theater. And I see her every 3 or 4 months when we can, and I'm very proud of her. So did that answer that question?
That's a beautiful answer. Thank you. And Vanessa from the club also asked if you're working on another book of any kind. And this is also something I'm always interested in.
I see Tom laughing there because he's been laughing at me about this for 42 years. Yeah, I've got a couple of books in the work. I've been working on a biography of the actor George Reeves, who played Superman in the 1950s. I've been working on that. Yeah, I think 42 years is a pretty good number. But it's actually coming along quite well these days. I had a little bit of an acting career that got in the way of a lot of work, but I'm getting a lot done right now. So, and I have a half completed crime novel that I've been working on almost as long. As Tom said at my wedding in 1989, I'm real good at starting books, and one of these days I'm going to finish one, and he's going to stroke out or something. So, yeah, I got a couple of things I'm working on.
That's great. Then also someone asked if Life's That Way is available in German. One of our readers, Chantal.
In German. I wish it were. I wish it were. My own German isn't good enough to translate it. There was a period right after it was published when it looked like a German publisher was going to buy the rights. And for reasons I don't know, they chose not to. The book is available in Italian and Chinese and Korean, but that seems to be the extent of it, which, and I don't have any control over that other than to, urge people to tell a publisher to buy it. I don't have, even my own publishers don't have any particular control over that. It has to be an offer from a foreign publisher. So I'm not sure what to do about that. I would love for it to be available in more languages, partly because I get lots and lots of requests. The German, French, Spanish, and Portuguese worlds are particularly vocal about wishing it were in their language, but unfortunately, I don't know what to do about it.
See, Daria has a question here. I'll let Daria. Can you unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yes, here I am. Thank you. Yes, Jim, this is such a thrill to be here. This is just sort of a technical question. I have no experience with book writing, so it may be a naive question, but I was thinking about how you had to take a medium like email and turn it into a book. No mean feat. Was there a process? I'm sure you had an editor who had a say in changing the style of an email into making it a book readable form. How did that work, if that was the process?
No one ever suggested that I make the book anything but a duplication of the emails. What they did suggest was, some vast trimming. I think in the foreword to the book, I mentioned that the uncut emails are longer than Moby Dick. And so there was a lot of repetition that needed. I told a story about the 3 cats like 4 times over the course of that year because I forgot I told it. It wasn't necessary for it to go into the book 4 times. it was largely just a matter of deciding which emails to use and then placing them in the format you saw, which is not terribly different from the format they showed up in people's inboxes. We did make the decision, just to save space, to eliminate my sign off every night of no bye-bye. But I don't know how much space that saved. What I was encouraged to do was to eliminate repetition and to eliminate a lot of unnecessary words. I learned a great deal about writing that I had heard before in school, but hadn't clearly paid attention to in the process of editing this book. I knocked off about, I don't know, 8,000 words simply by going through and cutting almost every example of the word very. It's as it turns out, it's an overused word. If you're saying what you mean, the emphasis should be recognizable, and you don't have to qualify every important thing by saying this was very important. Important stands alone. And I'm serious. I was shocked at how many words I cut out of the manuscript just by getting rid of that one. But most of it was just trying to crystallize it down to the things that would be impactful and have a resonant meaning over time. There were a lot of things in the original emails that dealt with day-to-day things that weren't necessarily of interest to a larger public. And so a lot of the trimming came there. But in terms of the format, it was pretty much just copy paste. The hard work was done with the emails. And although, editing the book was a little traumatic because it was the first time I had gone back over all these emails. It was the first time I had read them again. And as I say, there were an awful lot of them. And initially, I mean, my first submitted draft of the book was all of them. And the editors had to wade through them and say, well, you don't need this, you don't need this one. You've got to have this one, and it needs to be singled out. It doesn't need all this stuff around it. There was a lot of trimming in individual emails too, because they all had certain elements that weren't pertinent to the overall story that in the book I was trying to tell. In the emails, I wasn't telling a story so much as I was just recording the day. But when it came time to transform it into a book, it became something that needed focus and needed a certain amount of direction. And but there's nothing in the book that wasn't part of the emails, other than, I guess, the foreword and the epilogue.
Well,
So,
I just want to say I thought they did a wonderful job. If that's what they did a wonderful job of preserving your voice in those stories. That was not lost at all in the neatening up and trimming of the emails.
well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And then we have time for one more question here, and then we're going to move to announcing our next book. I'm very excited to talk about this. So Judy, if you want to unmute, you can quickly ask your question.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, Jim. How are you today? Looking
I'm
good.
fine.
I have another question about the emails, but not from a technical standpoint, although based on what you just said about how many of them were so much longer, I listened to the book, enjoyed your reading it, by the way. I just wondered if you found that it helped you every night to process what was going on in the day. I wondered where you dug to get the strength to do it night after night.
I have no idea where the strength came from, but I do know that the process was of enormous value to me. just yesterday, I was watching a documentary on Joan Didion, who wrote a very similar book, The Year of Magical Thinking, and and she talked about how the book was her way of understanding what she herself thought about what had happened. And I found that to be very true in my case. It was every day a way of, yes, informing my family and friends and those people reading as to what was going on any given day. But it became very much a way of sorting through my own thoughts of the day, because I knew I couldn't and didn't want to write down every thought I had. That wouldn't really serve anybody. So I had to kind of crystallize, okay, what is this day about? What did this event, what did it feel like? What do I think it meant? I didn't always know what it meant, but I think I made a lot of guesses as to what it meant. And the processing part was invaluable to me. It gave me a way to go to sleep at night. And those were long days. And even though I was exhausted, it wasn't easy to go to sleep at night, but it was very difficult to go to sleep if I hadn't written yet. So yeah, I thought it was very cathartic for me. And then I discovered that sharing the difficulties in one's life can be cathartic for other people as well, which was a surprise to me.
That's wonderful. Before we do the book reveal, I just wanted to, someone just asked how they could see the video. So I just wanted to really quickly show, this is the Fable app where Jim has been posting all of his thoughts about the book. So when you open the Fable app and you go to the Jim Beaver Club, you can scroll through and see all the different comments and things he's made. And then most recently, I just wanted to point this out to everyone to check out tonight. There's been a number of people asking for questions about resources for families about autism. And so Jim posted this excellent link that you can open up on your own time and explore and just find about good autistic advocacy organizations. And it's just a really super useful resource. I want to make sure everybody saw that inside of the app. And we will be posting the video as well inside the app for club members to enjoy if someone missed it or if you wanted to learn more again. So now is the big moment, Jim. Do you want to just review? I know we're almost out of time here, so just reveal this book, and you got some visual aids too. I'm going to pin you up here so everybody can see it. Yeah.
In 1967, I, for the first time, read this copy of a book by the actor Sterling Hayden. I read it because I was reading a lot of actors' biographies, and I read this one in high school, and it turned my world around. I was shocked at how well someone could write about his own life, how brutally honest someone could be about their own life, and how much adventure there was to be found outside of the movies. So this is going to be our next book, Wanderer by Sterling Hayden. And here's one of my other copies, because I have a lot. And then here's Hayden's only novel, Voyage, which I'm very proud of to own because it's got his own inscription in it. And it's a big book. Anyway, Wanderer is, well, it's my favorite nonfiction book. I've read it many times, and I'm excited to jump into it again. I hope you guys are.
You gave me, I do have the privilege of talking to Jim about these books and kind of thinking about them. And Jim gave me kind of an education about Sterling's career. Do you want to maybe just briefly walk? And I want to warn everyone, my wife has fallen in love with Sterling Hayden. He is he's quite a heartthrob. Be careful.
Well, at least he started out as one. He got pretty grizzled in the later days, but Hayden was a sea captain but he was what I think a lot of people felt was an absolutely gorgeous sea captain. And his picture was in the paper after winning a schooner race. And somebody said, oh, we got to get this guy in the movies. And he agreed only because it would get him enough money to buy a new boat. And he did a couple of movies. He thought they were terrible. He thought it was a silly job for a grown man to do. And then World War II had just started, and he quit Hollywood, joined the Marines under an assumed name, and went off and fought with the Yugoslav partisans in the Adriatic, and received a Silver Star and parachuted into behind enemy lines in Yugoslavia and ran guns with his own boat, and then came back after the war, and with nothing much else to do, he went back into the movies kind of reluctantly, and once again in order to buy a boat. And he ended up, much to his own surprise, and he never really felt like he was a good actor, he ended up making some absolutely brilliant movies and some superb performances in those movies. The Asphalt Jungle, The Killing, Dr. Strangelove, Long Goodbye, The Godfather. But his book is not much, it's a little about Hollywood. It's much more about life and how one man struggles to figure out the best way to live it. He's very hard on himself, much harder than I think he should be. But he's, and that's partly one of the reasons he's one of my heroes, because he acknowledges his mistakes and tries to do better, which is not a bad lesson for the world.
I think that's the best way to kind of wrap up this session. Thank you so much for taking the time this afternoon, Jim. And thank you for everyone for joining us.
For taking the time.
Yeah. And yeah,
I hope you guys have enjoyed reading my book, and I hope we'll have a lot to talk about when we finish this next one. Okay.
Yeah. This is a bigger book. We'll put the milestones in the Fable app, and just keep in touch with us, everyone in the club. Let us know if you need more time to read, or if you're cruising through the book, let us know. We're always here and listening. So thank you for joining us on this journey. It's a great book. Everybody's gonna have a lot of fun. So thank you, Jim.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone.